I am Lamont at Large. Today, I am at the Union Cemetery here in Bakersfield, California. I want to show you a grave and talk to you about a story of a young girl who never came home. On April 9th of 1980, a farmhand working in a town Shafter, which is about 20 miles north here of Bakersfield, found the bodies of two women. He immediately ran and called the police. The police came, set up a crime scene. Detectives came out, and it appeared to be the two bodies of two teenage girls. They looked to be between the ages of 15 and 20. They had been shot multiple times. One of them had the signs of sexual assault. And a lot of detectives will find a lot of bodies. But what struck the detectives on this case was that these two girls that they found, they were very well kept. They were dressed very well. They didn't look like street people, as they would call them. And one of them had on a ring that said Walnut High School. So the detectives, they said, well, we'll be able to easily identify these girls. They went into their database of high schools in the area or Southern California. It took them a while because in those days there really was no internet, and they found that there was a couple high schools called Walnut. One in particular was down in Southern California in the greater Los Angeles area. They called the school, said we got a couple of girls. They didn't have anybody that was missing. And later they found that that ring had been reported stolen. So a week goes by, they don't have any identification of these girls. They're calling different police departments up and down California. No one has the girls missing on their log sheets. So eventually, time goes on, they're buried, and no one is claiming these two girls. And as most, if not all murders, when a certain amount of time goes by, they get forgotten and they remain unsolved. So this murder of these two girls remained unsolved for 13 years. Now, in 1993, there was a program about unsolved murders that someone was watching in Southern California. It was about a murder of a young girl in upstate New York. And the person watching the program immediately thought of a family friend that they had a long time ago named Charlena Simon. So she called the police where she lived at in Pomona. She says, hey, a family friend of mine has been missing for a long time, and I seen this murder on TV. Could it possibly be her? The detective quickly checked it out and just realized, no, it wasn't her. But it got him thinking. He looked at the case, and over the course of a few days, really started bothering him. So he began his process of trying to solve these murders of these two young girls. So he starts looking over all the paperwork and all the missing girls. A lot of people got to realize back in those days, when you got reported missing, girls ran away all the time. So it was just a common occurrence. So like, oh, they'll be back. And usually they came back. They're just gone for a day. And that's it. But the detective was looking at the Charlena Simon case, went to Bakersfield, had the composite sketches of the girls. He went up to Bakersfield to get the composite sketches of the girls, to get the jewelry that were found on the girls. He drives up to Bakersfield, drives back down, goes to the parents of Charlena Simon and says, hey, I got a composite sketch of a girl that was found with another young lady in Bakersfield in 1980. They were found shot to death. Do you recognize the jewelry? And The parents said no. And so, as one final try, he had the crime scene photos. And he shows a picture of Charlene. He says, do you recognize this as your daughter? Because they didn't recognize her jewelry or the composite sketches. And immediately the mother broke down and said, that's my daughter, Charlena. And he showed them the other picture of the other girl. And they said, yeah, that's her friend, Robin Sneed. So after 13 long years of a case that has been just falling through the cracks, no excuse for why it has remained, that these girls have remained unidentified for so many years. So finally the case, not been solved, but the girls have been identified. The police technically haven't solved the case, but they believe they know who killed these two girls. It was a man by the name of Fernando Caro. He was currently on death row for another two murders that occurred in similar fashion up north about 100 miles from where these girls were found. He died in jail a while back ago. So you're probably wondering, because I was wondering while I was reading up about this case, I was wondering, why wouldn't the parents have gone further in finding their daughters? You got two separate families. They didn't come from broken homes. They came from decent households, two-parent households. They both work. And the girls did have, before ran away from home. The parents of Charlene Simon, they honestly thought she was still alive. They thought that she just went to go live her own life and that one day she'd come back. Now, the family did, occasionally run the social security number of their daughter to see if there were tax records or, records of anything. They did trace her social security number, but nothing ever came up. And as a parent, I'm sure you don't want to imagine your daughter is dead somewhere. You just want to imagine she's alive and she's doing good, and maybe she just doesn't want to be found. So the two unmarked graves here, the family of Charlene Simon, they came to claim their daughter's body and to take her back to Southern California in Pomona for a proper burial. But Charlena's other friend, Robin Sneed, they said in the story that she was going to be reinterred near her family. So when I went looking for these unmarked graves, I was figuring to myself that there's not going to be any marker. There's going to be nothing there. I felt compelled to come up here. I don't know these people. I don't have any affinity to the case, other than the fact that I'm a human being, and two girls who were brutally murdered, don't deserve to be forgotten about. Of course not. What kind of person would I be if I wouldn't want to, drive 100 miles up north and come to Bakersfield to find the graves of where these two ladies were? And it took me about an hour and a half yesterday to find the grave. And here is Charlene Simon's friend that was brutally murdered with her. This is the grave of Robin Sneed. The online story said that the family was going to come to take Robin's body and bring it back home to Pomona. And I came here looking and I found this. So there is a marker now in place. And it doesn't look like the family did that. It looked like the family just went ahead and kept her here. And her friend was moved. But here Robin remains. This girl, a rebellious girl by nature, but who is a rebellious when you're 16 years old, you know? And as the story goes that the police came up with is that these girls were hitchhiking. They found their way to Bakersfield and they got into the car of Fernando Caro, who was he was in the Marines. He was a helicopter pilot, and he raped and killed them, shot them and left them for dead in a ditch on a piece of farmland up in Shafter. This girl had a story. She didn't get to really live her life, and just like everybody, she has a story too. So I am Lamont at Large. Thank you for listening to me talk about these two poor girls' story. Peace out.